that's where the power is. I don't want to be the only one in the room that doesn't know. And it's that question, I feared it because I never failed. Finding those small things, searching for this thing where it was like...
It's February 22nd, you're 22-5. You plan to take it to the tournament, reaching Sweet 16 for the first time in program history. You're facing Gordon, you already beat twice. You can feel a trophy in your hands. What happens next?
Very similar to a lot of other teams. We fell short, and unfortunately our season was kind of stripped from us unexpectedly, as I think we took them too lightly and didn't show up enough.
Okay, so I bring that up because I'm talking about failure this episode. We talked about all your successes last time. I know we had a good time talking about failure a little bit and what we can kind of learn from it. Because I think that I've been having a weird obsession with failure recently, kind of like trying to figure out how we can learn from it. And I think as an athlete, you're the best person to talk to, and now in business. So what did you learn from that? Like your initial kind of...
A lot. I mean, I think I originally had to get over it, I think. So getting over that was a lot, in the process of feeling it and allowing myself to understand it was over and kind of reflect on what we could have done better. I think especially, I know we've talked a little about it the first one, but like coaching now, I'm able to actually be like, listen, like you don't get a second chance, right? Like this is it for you. And a lot of times people say that, but they don't really understand it. So being able to go through that, feel the pain, feel the greatness of everything else, and be able to now show that to my girls and the other kids that I coach and say that like, you only get one chance. You do have to leave everything on the court and give it your all. I think that's definitely the biggest impact that it made on me.
So how do you communicate that without sounding like coach speak? Because all my coaches said that, and it was only until I kind of saw other athletes go through it that I was like, oh, this is real. So like, how do you kind of get over that hump?
Like as an athlete, at least, I know I mentioned it, but like you have to let yourself feel it. And then you also have to look at it. I mean, I watched the game over, like literally watched the film, and had to like kind of look back and be like, okay, you know, I wasn't locked in there. I didn't do what we talked about in Scout there. But in real life, in the real world, like you just have to kind of face it head on. You know what I mean? Like a lot of times people, I don't want to say like run from it, but they're also just like, oh, okay, like it just wasn't meant to be, so let's move on, rather than learning from it and kind of taking it to the chin and understanding like, okay, this is where I can improve and that's where I'm going to implement it next. I think that can go in business world, it can go in basketball, it can go in real life, in relationships and everything. I think failures has so much power if you use it in the right way.
I like what you said there, because people do run from it too. And I've been thinking about that a lot, because like, if you think about someone that maybe a relationship fails and they have a new boyfriend or girlfriend right after, or a new job, like you don't sit in anything to learn it. So that's why I'm happy you said that you kind of watched it back. Now, knowing what you know now about how you took them too lightly, how do you change that for whether it's a game that you're coaching or in business, kind of like, oh, this is light, this is nothing, we did all this stuff hard. Like, how do you kind of get up for each moment when it's not the same, if that makes sense?
Yeah. I mean, I would like to say like, oh, it's easy, you just show up, but you don't. You definitely need to have that motivation. I like to kind of use the trick where it's like, if my mind starts to wander somewhere and I'm really not locked in, even if it's easy, I try to bring it back and like kind of lock back into that, because a lot of times it's just muscle memory, especially, you know, in sports, like, you know, you shoot and it's just muscle memory, which is great. But it's also like in big games, you need to practice also locking in on like the small things too. So I think at least I like to do that in general, even in the business world. I like to kind of, even if I'm sending off something that may be tedious, I like to really put like my full effort into it. That way I know that at least I'm mentally locked in.
Let's get into this a little bit, because we didn't talk about it last time. Okay, let's start again with another failure before we go into some successes. What's a failure you either recently had or maybe your biggest one in business so far?
I mean, I've definitely had failures. I don't know if they're necessarily failures as setbacks. I think that a lot of things in business can set you back and you can kind of be like, oh, not for me. Let me change my industry or let me change my path. Instead of kind of taking that route, I tried to kind of add things to my plate. So like I originally, I am in a strategic partnership role in the real big girl business world. And so I work with a lot of like luxury apartment complexes and a lot of big time like industry development firms. And a lot of the times I get no's, and I'm supposed to be the one that's like locking down the deals for partnerships, right? And a lot of the time they're like, no, not for us, but like thanks anyways. And it's hard to keep getting that over and over again, especially if you're not even getting in the door. You know what I mean? Like you're just
Mm,
getting the no right away and you're not even able to make your case. So I think that I like to take them as setbacks, even though they are failures. I mean, when someone says no, it's a failure and they're
right.
saying no. But I like to take it where I'm like, okay, maybe I wasn't firm enough, or maybe I wasn't explaining what we can do better, or maybe I just wasn't having the presence I needed to in that conversation. So I think that like even though they're failures, I like to kind of be like they're setbacks, but let's learn from it and kind of expand that in the business side too.
So talk about rejection, and we Cam and I talk about this a lot, especially because like we're men talk about dating, but it goes for everything. How do you deal with rejection? Because that shit does hurt. Like even if it's not personal, it still hurts. You know?
Yeah. It doesn't it takes a hit to your ego and it's like, huh. But again, I like to think of it as like maybe not rejection, but maybe like okay, at least they know my name now, right? Like, or oh,
Mm,
at least I had a conversation with them, or I'm in their ear now. I always try to think of like the positive side from it. Obviously, like it's different if it's like a relationship or if it's
right.
basketball, like, but you can still try and think of like, okay, there is some positive impact somewhat in there deep down if I try and find it.
Have you always been that positive?
No. Oh, no, 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 no.
So what made you that way then?
Um, I think failing. Like, I honestly think, like, I I mean, I think we touched on it at the first podcast, but, like, I always, was the best at everything and doing really great, and even though it wasn't handed to me, I still worked on it, like, I still never really, like, wasn't the best, if that makes sense, and so when I fail, whether it was basketball or whether it was business or I was getting these no's, I was like, "Oh, like, okay, like I'm human also. I'm not, like the best at everything. I can still
Right.
learn. And in a way, it kind of like helped me and it helped me like be more positive because I'm like, oh my God, this is fun. Like now I can actually get better and improve and figure out ways and try and be like, huh, I'm coming back and now kind of proving it to you guys.
Do you fear failure?
Interesting you ask that. I if you asked me that 2 years ago, I would say yes. I think
Okay.
I've feared it my whole life. But again, it goes back to having failed, right? Like, I think I feared it because I never failed, and it sounds a little, like, interesting, but, like, I never really did because I think I was doing things I was always good at and never really pushed myself past that limit, and so now I know, like, maybe it wasn't fear of failure, but maybe it was just, like, I never knew what it was like to push myself that hard to the point where I had to get better in order to succeed.
So do you think that before you failed, your identity was a success, and that anything other than that was a threat to your identity?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think if you put it that way, definitely. I don't think I knew it at the time though. I think
Right, yeah.
now when you say that,
The
I'm
dots
like,
connect looking back.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Oh, because I'm thinking a lot about identity. Because listen to a podcast before this talking about identity, but also as an athlete. I was thinking like
Mhm.
talking to you again as an athlete into business also. We kind of only think ourselves as athletes. That's why I think it's a shell
Mhm.
shock when you're done playing.
Yeah.
So now, do you identify yourself as a businesswoman and a coach, or like how do you identify yourself? I guess.
I think I'm still trying to figure that out. I think I have a lot of different ways that I identify, and I think like I think that's really good. You know what I mean? I think it's good to
Yeah.
have I can put my coaching hat on or I can put my business world hat on. But like again, if you asked me that 2 years ago, I would have said, "Oh, I'm a basketball player," right? So now I just have more hats in my bag to put on rather than being like, "Oh, I'm an athlete. This is what I am, and that's it." Um, but I would say I think now my identity is basically a leader, whether I'm in the business world or the coaching world or, with my friends or anything like that. I think that's my identity, just like being a leader.
Perfect segue. I didn't even mean it. What's a leader to you? Like define. Okay, okay, define a leader. Like, what does that look like? Because that's a buzzword, and
Yeah.
when people say, you know what I mean?
I think to me at least, a
Mm-hmm.
leader is like unapologetically doing what they think is best for them in that scenario and the people around them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people think like, "Oh, I can lead because people follow me," but it's like that's not it may be leading, but a positive leadership, and I think that there's a lot of miscommunication between leadership and being a positive leader for positive impact. And so I don't know if that directly answered your question, but I think that that's kind of how I would define it.
I think that actually is directly because like like you said, there's managers and there's leaders. There's like that's why I hate the word leader being thrown everywhere because I've been in these positions. I've had people lead me, coaches, whatever. Then you can say, oh yeah, a politician's a leader, and then a manager. I was like, no, they're
Mhm.
manager. Like there's qualities that go into it. So I just want to have you kind of brought that up. And I think sports kind of has to make you a leader because if not, you can't really do much in the sport, depending
Mhm.
on what you're doing. Um, Fuck, what was the question I was going to ask you? So, oh yeah, so I'm happy you brought up identity. Not you brought up identity and talked about it a little bit because like, you heard the study with the ants when they drew the line?
I don't think so.
So
Maybe.
there was a couple years ago, they put an ant on a piece of paper, right?
Okay.
And they drew a circle around the ant. The ant would not go around it. They put the ant on another piece of paper and drew a line. It kept running away from the line. Eventually, the researcher put it too close to the ant, and the ant went over it. From then on out, they could not put another line where it would not cross. And
Interesting.
basically, it was the study that we do the same thing for ourselves. Our identity is a line. So if you're an athlete, you can't cross that line because all you think of yourself as an athlete. You can't go anywhere else. So you
Mm.
saying that broke down that you can now put on your coaching hat, business hat, your
Huh.
relationship hat. It's like, oh shit, we can do this. So I'm happy you brought it up and like actually just made the point.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow. No, that's a great analogy. I think that makes so much sense because it's like you don't cross that bridge until you get there or you're forced to, and then when you do, you're like, "Oh, I can do this," right? Like, I am something else, so yeah, wow, that was actually really mind-blowing right there.
Thank you. I get a few every once in a while. I hear some stuff. Speaking of hearing stuff, okay, so I'm a big Notre Dame fan, and so
Mhm.
my role model is Marcus Freeman, and he talks
Okay.
about coaching. So I'm happy to have you come back on. He talks a lot about building relationships with players. So I want to know how you can kind of do that because that's a hard line to toe. We've all had coaches that are too player friendly and then too other
Mhm.
ways. So like, how do you kind of?
I think it's different when, it's hard because it's if you're a younger female, it's probably easier than if you're an older male who, has 2 kids or whatever. Like, it's a little
Yeah.
different than vibe. But I try to think of it where it's like every one of my girls are different, right? And I need to figure out the best way that they need to be treated and they respond to things. And so it definitely is taking me a while. I mean, I've been there for 3 years, and so I'm starting to like the people that have been there for 3 years or I really am closer with and able to help. But I think it's also just receiving the information rather than coaching. And I think a lot of coaches go out there and just coach one way and say this is it and that's what I'm going to do. And I think the coaches that really connect with the players like connect because they're like, okay, let me receive what they're saying or what they need, and then let me use that and coach them in the way that they will understand. And so I guess that's the angle I like to take, just because also females are different and they're harder to understand. They're more emotional and all that. And so I think just understanding them first and then figuring out how can I implement that in what I'm trying to teach them and then kind of like building the blocks from there.
Okay, so how do you take that into the business world now?
Interesting that you asked that, because I'm still learning, but I think it is true too, where it's like, everyone's trying to sell everything, right? Everyone's trying to make a deal. Everyone's trying to shake hands and be the one that makes that transaction go through, right? And I
Hmm.
think a lot of the time it's what can I do? What can I do? This is what I offer. And that's, I think, where a lot of my no's came from at first, because I was like, this is what we're doing and it's so great. And why don't you see the value? But then I was like, well, I'm not looking at it from their business, right? Like, let me look at what their gaps are. Let me look at how this can help them. Let me look, okay, maybe their marketing is not as great, so this could help their marketing, rather than maybe this company over here doesn't have great retention, so that would help their retention. And it's just different, right? So I think looking at it from their lens and then understanding, okay, I'll take the part of this of our business and put it in there. And I think that that has made a tremendous impact for us, at least.
And how did you learn that? Like, was there a moment? Was it someone sitting down like, "Hey," like,
I don't know. I think it's just been repetitions. And I think it might sound a little silly, but like, I think coaching and I think having different outlets in my life that I'm learning and like growing in all these different branches, I think that's helping because I'm not just boxed in, right? And like,
mm,
I don't love the term entrepreneur because like I'm a very structured person and I like to like have that. But, like, the more I'm doing things, the more I'm like, I can still do all of these different things at once, and in the end, it's actually helping every single aspect of my life, and so I guess it could be in a way, some people view it as entrepreneurship, but I view it as like, okay, no, I'm, these 10 other occupations that I really enjoy, but they're
mm.
building me, and I'm able to implement what I'm learning from each to then expand in every single one of those industries.
That's probably the biggest thing I've ever heard because so many times, like, especially my age, like hustle culture is like a big thing, and like, hey, you got a million things. It's just like, well, maybe, but what do you can't take something and not put it to another because you're not
Mhm.
getting anything out of it. The money can go away tomorrow, but if you build those skills and lessons, like you just said, it's always going to build on something else. So I'm happy you
Exactly.
brought that up. Now I want to go back. You said you're the closer. That's what you said, right? Can you
Yes, I try.
what right? But what does that look like? Can you walk me through? Let's say I'm a buyer. What does that mean? So like if I'm coming to you,
Yeah. I mean, do you want me to give you specifics of, like, what I do? Or do you just want me
yeah,
to give an
like let's
example?
walk through the scenarios. So okay, so what do you sell again?
So, I'm, like, the partnership between a luxury apartment complex and, like, a fitness facility in their building. So, we go in and we staff their buildings and sell, like, the contracts for the partnerships.
So if I'm a buyer, what am I buying?
So, I'm basically speaking with developers or, like, property management, regional management, like, those people, and trying to basically say, hey, this is actually going to help you in all different fronts, whether it's retention, whether it's lifting your ROI, your NOI, building no cap X for you guys. Like all of these things are, like closing statements, but it's
Mhm.
really getting in the door to kind of bring up those closing statements, right? And so I think that a lot of it is building the relationship first. So I will reach out to them or I'll meet them at an event and just be like, "Hey," and talk to them as a person, right? Like talk to them
Mm.
like, "Where are you from? Like what brought you here?" Like just general human questions.
Mhm.
And then from there, I let them tell me what they do so then I can listen and be like, "Okay, clock that. That's what would help you guys and we do that and this." And then I can put the puzzle pieces together. I like really don't love like talking surprisingly because I'm talking a lot, but I don't really love, like, talking too much in the conversations, right? Like, I love listening because then I can take specific things and be like, "Okay, I'm gonna take those and not talk your ear off and sell crazy stuff to you," right? So I would just be like, "Hey, like, that's crazy that you guys only have 35% capacity right now in your building. Like, have you heard of what we do here? Like, we can actually give you 65 to 70% retention in less than 2 months. And this is what we do." And then that's like a boom, right? Like that's what they need. So we come in and help them. And I didn't really have to sell anything.
By retention, what do you mean?
So, like, resident retention in, like, apartment complexes, like, usually if you go and set like, I'm gonna be there for a year lease and I don't love it, or it's getting too expensive, or the rent increase is too crazy and I don't get anything for it, that's when, like, people will leave, right? And they don't stay, so they don't retain in the building. So, like, renewing of leases is usually where the retention stays from or increases because you're offering these things, so the retention goes higher.
So you're the one trying to figure out how to get them to stay more by offering them stuff like you said, like gym equipment for their buildings?
Yeah, we don't do necessarily gym equipment. We do partner with Gronk Fitness, so like they'll build the gyms out and do the equipment for them. We do more of the activation of humans, right? So we'll put the trainers in there and we'll do nutrition seminars, we'll do personal training, we'll give them that human connection, basically at no cost to them because it's built into their rent. And then also the building doesn't have to pay for it because it's built into the rent, and the renters are paying it just because they're paying their rent.
Okay. So we already went over the first part, how you get in the door, you network a little bit. Now let's say we're in the middle part. So now I'm the I come to you, you come to me already talking, right? Now how do you kind of implement further? Like what are you saying? I know we went over fast, but like tell me people at home that kind of into this or whatever. I am
Mhm.
too. This is my little nerdy part. So like
Yeah, it's great.
um what let's say I'm the buyer, like now you're selling to me. What does that kind of look like? What are we talking about? And like what if I'm a person that doesn't understand what you're selling? How do you kind of get me to understand?
Honestly, again, listening to what they need, right? So, like, if they're giving a little pushback, don't be pushy. Like, don't be like,
Mm,
hey, 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 but also follow up. A lot of times things will fall through the crack because you're not following up. A lot of the times you don't really think about, like, you're so shell inside yourself where you're like,
mm,
they haven't responded to me, rather than thinking about it from their standpoint where it's like, they're probably jam packed with meetings. Let me give them a week. If they don't respond, let me shoot a quick follow up rather than sending them all the information up front and then following up every 2 days. Right. So I think putting yourself in the shoes of, okay, if I don't get a response, let me not be crazy about it and like reach out all the time, but also make sure I follow up. So I always will be like a week from now, I'll put it in my calendar, follow up with Sally, right? And make sure that she's all set. And then if I get a response, great. And usually the response is like, oh, I'm so sorry. I read it and didn't respond, right? Like, so usually that's the case. Um, I also love, like, reaching out if they're not, like, fully into it and I'm like, "Oh, they're iffy," I'll be like, "Hey, like, just so you know, we're actually doing this, like, special of, like, a free 24 hours of personal training. You guys can add it there." Or, like, something that's, like, really enticing for them that they'll be like, "Oh, okay," and it's like it has a time on it, right? And that it
mm.
adds, like, a little urgency to that. And then usually from there, you just get coffee or you get dinner and then you talk about it, figure out what they need, and then you get back to them with a proposal.
Okay, I was gonna ask about that part. You said you get coffee, you get dinner. I've always been the person that didn't always understand like the importance of lunch and dinners and stuff like that. I still kind of don't. Like, I get it. You gotta sit down and talk with them, whatever. But how does that help? I get being out of the office, but like saying they were going for a walk, like how does that kind of help? And what do you do there?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny you say that because, like, I think at the first time we did the podcast, I probably wouldn't have been like how important it is either. Like, I think it's like, oh, if you want it, you're going to do it. If not, whatever. Right.
Right.
Um, but I think and it's dependent, of course, on the business and what you're trying to do. But I think people buy people, they don't buy what you're doing. And I think that if you're creating that relationship outside of like, oh, I'm not having a meeting or like Zoom's great, but like you're not making that personal connection, right? And so like
Mm,
if two people mutually decide to go get coffee together, it's obvious that you both want to go have that conversation rather than being like, oh, here's my Calendly link, go like book a right? Like
right.
it's not as personal and you're not building that much connection. So
Hmm.
I think that like although it seems silly and it may not seem like something you wanna do all the time, which for me it was not, like, I was like, "I do not wanna do this," but I think it's very important too because it's like, you're both deciding to do that and you're both making the effort to do that. It's similar to relationships in your life, right? Like, you're still creating that bond even though it's a business bond, and, like, that's where you can kind of, like, put your teeth into them and be like, "Hey, like, this is what we need now because we have that closer relationship."
Okay, so now we're at that point. We finished dinner. Now you gotta close. What does that look like?
Again, usually it's like them making the first closure move, I would say, just because you always want to like leave with the last note, right? Like I always want to be like, thank you so much or thank you for this. Like I will send you this or I will follow up tomorrow by end of day or very specific things, right? But I like to have them make the first move of being like, "Oh, you know what, let's get a meeting on the books with my regional. Like, let's get this done." And I'll be like, okay, great. Like this, and then that's where you jump at it. So usually that's where what happens, where it's kind of like, hey, like, let's do this. And then I don't push too much, right? Like, I'm just like, oh, great. This is what to expect. I will, have someone reach out to you tomorrow. There we go. And then it does happen. And then that creates and just keeps gaining credibility because you're following through with what you said.
Okay. What's the biggest misconception that you had going into business?
Not that it would be easy, but I think like that, like I could just, like do the work and be done. I think. Like I think I just was like, oh, it's a job. And like again, I think it's a little entrepreneur in me, but like it's kind of turning into who I am rather than being a job. And so I think my misconception was like, oh, I have to do this to live, right? Like I have to do these things, which I do, but it's like I can still have fun while doing it and I can still learn while doing it. And it doesn't have to be miserable. I think a lot of society is like, oh, 9 to 5 or like blah, 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 like have to do. And I'm not disregarding that. I think a lot of people are not happy with it, but I think it's like, okay, well then go change it, right? Like go, you can have fun. You can grow as a human. You can be better. You can go in a different industry. You know what I mean? Like, I think
Mm.
that's misconceived a lot throughout all of communities.
So how did you make it fun?
I think again, we touched a little about this on the first podcast. It's like,
Mhm.
I have all these different jobs. I have all these different industries that I'm in. And I think at first I was like, whoa, this is a lot overwhelming. But then I was like, why can't it be fun while I'm learning? And I think I'm a little nerdy also. So it's kind of like I enjoy learning, right? Like I
Right.
enjoy growing. And I think when I did fail and I did get past that ant line, I think I realized like, oh, I can grow into all these other things and it is fun. And I'm not like, "Ugh, I'm missing being an athlete. Right. And I think that that's the big thing that I took from it. It's like I'm bringing in that athletic mind of mine, but it's just being taught and bonded into different industries.
Inter Okay, so I always wonder about this about highly ambitious people. Would you say you're being dragged or that you're dragging? Meaning, are you being dragged by something that an inadequacy or a feeling about yourself that makes you ambitious that way? Or you care so much about something that you're kind of going to, it's like full momentum. There's no wind coming at you, there's nothing pulling you. You're going on your own.
Mm, it's a good question. I think I think a mix of both because I
Hmm.
think at first I was doing things in just like trudging water, right? And I just was like, I'm going through it, getting through these things. I'm learning what I'm trying to do, and this is what I have to do. And again, it comes back to the fun thing where it's like, well, now my mindset is like, wait, this is fun. I can figure this out, and if I don't, maybe I can find someone who can then help me figure it out. And that was a big thing for me too, where it's like I don't have to know all the answers because that's the whole point of this journey, right? Is like I'm learning from other people. Like I don't know as much as people who have been in the industry for 20 years. Like, but why can't I endure that and be like, "Hey, I have a question. Can I learn this from you?" And so I think I may not be dragging. Like I think I'm slowly going along,
Right.
but I think also, like, there are days where I'm like, the wind seems like it's just, like, pushing me down,
Hmm.
and that's where it kinda comes where it's, like, maybe not failures, but setbacks where it's like, "Okay, I have to remind myself, this is why I'm doing it, and this is what and I have to enjoy being blown away by the wind because someday it's gonna blow me forward, right? And, like, someday it's gonna be pushing me and helping me move forward rather than pushing me back, and I just have to kind of accept that and, like, keep trudging forward.
I like how you said that you're not afraid to like ask questions, that you're supposed to ask questions because I was like the opposite before. I was always a curious person, but I was afraid to put my hand up and ask. But now I'm like, I read books, I do all this stuff. So I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
basically I say this. My job is to be the dummy in the room because like my job is to ask the dumb questions or whatever. So how did you always have that? Were you the kid in class that would ask, or were you scared?
I was scared. I think it wasn't necessarily like I'm scared to raise my hand and ask, but I think it was more of like I don't wanna sound dumb, right?
Hmm.
And I don't wanna ask something that maybe I wasn't paying attention for and it was already
Right.
talked about or things like that, right? Like, I was like, I don't wanna be the only one in the room that doesn't know. And I think the power shift that a lot of people will grow from is like, that's where the power is, right? Like if you ask that question and people, I mean, I promise you, other people don't know the answer. Like at
Right.
least one other person in the room doesn't. But even if someone, like everyone else did, like people are going to look at you and be like, that's a great question just because you didn't know the answer. Why would you not ask? Right. And
Right.
so that's where the power shift came from. Like I go to crazy biz now events where there's like crazy big developers and stuff like that there. And the first one I went to, I almost like threw up. I was so nervous. Like because it's like it's intimidating, right? And
Yeah.
like and I still get nervous every now and then, but it's more of like, who am I to think that these people aren't looking at me like I don't know what I'm doing? And it's true, right? Like I don't know as much as them. So why not endure that and be like, hey, I'm confident in that. I'm going to ask you these questions and hope that I can learn from you. And I think that that's like, that's a big thing. I think when I was a kid, I just was like, not going to do it. But now I'm confident in it where I'm like, I want to learn. I want to figure this out. Why not just accept the fact that I don't know it?
Okay, two things. One, I wish every year I get older, I think that it's gonna be the year that everyone knows what they're doing. Like, I mean,
Mhm.
18, they know what they're doing. I gotta catch up. 19, every year I'm like, no one knows what
Mhm.
the fuck they are doing. And I wish people told me that at like 14 years old. It means like
Mhm.
every year I'm like, oh, I'm behind, and you're not. Second, can we go back and walk me through that first conference you went to? Like, tell me the feeling, what it was. Like, let's go through the full story. I'm curious about that.
Yeah, it was I flew to Chicago for a BizNow event.
Hmm.
Basically all real estate investment developments, talking about the trends of what luxury apartment complexes are and all of these big topics, right? I was doing a lot of the work remotely at first, like so this was my first like in-person type of thing.
Hmm.
And I've never been to Chicago. So I was like, okay, I'm in a new place. I'm doing this new thing. I'm talking to all these new people, and it was a lot. And this one, luckily, I wasn't on stage for. The next one I was, which was like, thank God it was the second one. But this one, I was just there, like, like mingling, talking to people, and my boss was on a panel, so it was more of like, okay, I know everyone's not staring at me, but they're staring at our company, and I'm
Right.
the vice president, so it's kind of like there was a lot of pressure, um, and so I was nervous. I'm kind of a social anxious person anyways, which again probably doesn't seem normal, I know, but
No.
I am shockingly. And I just like I don't go out of my way to be like, oh hi, like I'm Jenni Rose and I do this, right? I like to take it in and let people come to me and talk to them. Um, but this you obviously have to go up to people and you have to do that, right? So
Right.
I was being pushed out of my comfort zone multiple different angles. And I kind of just, like, went through it, to be honest. Like, I was like, "I have to do this. I don't have an option." I could have performed better, absolutely, and but the thing is, like, now I go to them 6 times a year, and I'm like, "Okay, I'm good now," right? Like,
Mm.
so I had to go through that, and I had to learn how I could get better, and I had to realize too, like, half of these people also are in the same boat. Like they don't know what they're doing. Like maybe they know one thing really well, which I do too, but it may not be the same thing that they know. And so I think just having that mindset of like, okay, calm down, relax, and realize like we're all human, we're all the same thing. Let me learn from them. Let me show them what I can make them learn and hope that
Mm.
like someone bites, right? And someone's like, oh, that's really interesting. And I made a goal for myself. I think this is very important. Like anytime you go networking, always try to at least get like, depending on the size of event, but like, 5 to 10 business cards. Like that way, you spoke with people and you know that you made an impact. And so when I did that and I made that measurable goal and like I left and had that, at least I was like, okay, I can breathe. I didn't fail, right? Maybe I
Mhm.
maybe I had a few setbacks, but I didn't fail.
Okay, so now we're going on to the second one. Now you're speaking.
Mhm.
Walk me through that.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
I can see the nerves is back in you already.
yeah, no, it was interesting. It was tough because it was actually so one of my players on Emerson College is my intern. So I had her come because it was in Boston. So she came, which honestly was so great because I was able to have like someone there that was like
Hmm.
able to calm me down. Um and the night before I was practicing my speech like over and over and over again. And like by the end of the night, I I was like, oh, it's good. I know this like the back of my hand. Like, national anthem, I got it, right? And
Right.
I got there and I was like, oh my God, like I tried to recite it once to her, couldn't do it. I was like, okay, we need to go practice this like multiple times. Granted, there's like 300 businessmen in like business suits, like all of like 30 to like 60 years old. And I'm a 27-year-old little girl, right? Like going there, speaking to them. And so a lot of imposter syndrome came up, like a lot where I was like, I should not be up here doing this. Um, but the, like, amazing thing was, like, I was able to practice with her. That helped me a lot. She was able to kinda be like, "You got this." But then also when I got up there, like, the intro that the Biz Now people did for me was amazing. Like, they were so, like, hyped up and, like, made me feel like, "Oh, I should be up there." And so that helped in, like, a little confidence there. But once I was up there, oh my god, I blacked out. I just was like, I'm just gonna go with it. I think I missed a few lines, definitely. But I was like, worst thing that happens is what I like stutter. Like there was nothing that could truly go wrong. So I kind of just took that and let it run with it. And then when I got off, I was like, oh my gosh, okay, I'm done. And it was like the best relief ever because I just was like, let's move on. And people came up to me after and were like, that was a great speech. Like, was that your first time at a Biz event? Like they were telling me, and again, I go on microphones a lot for like the Celtics and like all these things, and it's different. You know what I mean? Like basketball's different and getting hyped up is different, but when you're talking about
Eh.
business, it's like people really listen and it's very like you need to be direct. And so it was different and it pushed me out of my comfort zone, but I think it was pretty good other than, a few missed lines there.
All right, let's talk a little about being woman in business and imposter because it's funny how it all keeps coming up. But yesterday I was watching an interview. I forget her name, but she was like 25 years old running a meeting, like you said, an acquisition meeting, negotiation meeting, and she's like 3 minutes late to the meeting, whatever. And she walks in, and the lawyer looks up and goes, "Oh, perfect, sweetie, can you give me a coffee?" So she goes, taken back, and she's already nervous and whatever. She's like, "You know what? Yeah." Walks around the table, gets the coffee. Does anyone else want anything? No? Okay. Gets puts coffee, then sits down in front of the guy. And he goes, "Oh, fuck." She's like, "Yeah."
Mhm.
And it kind of made her be like, "Okay, it's fine," because now he's like, "I fucked up. I'm here now."
Mhm.
But one is imposter syndrome of like what's happening, but two being a girl in business. Because as a guy, I don't think about it a lot because I'm like, it's just business, whatever, going into it.
Mhm.
But you just said you feel like a 27-year-old little girl in front of. Oh, so what's that kind of like?
Um, I mean, it's definitely something that you can never experience unless you are, unfortunately, and it's different, but it's also like, again, there's a lot of power in it if you're able to use it in the right way, right? And like, if you're able to be confident, that can go way further than any people could ever imagine. And if you're respectful, if you're like, let me again listen to you first and let me figure this out. But then also like standing your ground, right? Like I love listening to something and then making a comment back on what they said. And then you would be surprised how many people are like, oh, whoa, like, she's actually intelligent or like, you know what I mean? Like it's unfortunate that that's what has to happen first, but it's also like the feeling that you get when you do that and you prove people wrong and you're like, yeah, like listen to me, like this is great. It's worth it 100%, I think at least.
Why do you think it's gonna sound weird when I say this, and I'm only
It's
regretting
okay.
thinking it. Do you think your looks have anything to do with it? Because you are a pretty girl, so like people think pretty equals dumb, but
Mhm.
obviously you're not. So it's like, do you think that's it more than even being a girl? Do you think those combine together?
Think a combination. I mean, again, it's not great either, but like being pretty also does help. And so it's kind of like, you know, what comes first, the chicken or the egg is like, do you think I'm dumb because I'm a girl? Or do you think I'm dumb because I'm pretty or both or what? And
Right.
so I think as long as you're able to be confident and respectful, no matter how whatever you look like I think people will think that you are a gorgeous person, right? Because you are confident, you're treating them with respect, and then you're intelligent. And like so that in itself, like those three trifectas, I think people automatically there'll be like a glow around you. And I think that that holds a very, very big part of it. But I do think like a lot of times people will look at me and be like, "Oh, okay." And I'm short, right? So that doesn't help.
Are you
Like,
really?
Yeah, I'm like 5'4", so, like,
I don't know. I look at your stats, not your height. I
yeah,
don't
no,
know.
I think I was 5'6" on the roster because I went with it, but with shoes, I was like 5'5", but yeah, I'm short, I'm not the most, you know, I guess I'm not dumb looking, but, if you're pretty, like you said, it is something that
People, yeah.
you have to fight with, and it's fine, and if you learn to kind of use it to your advantage with respect, I think that it's something that can, like, help you in the long run.
You talk a lot about confidence. Where does your confidence come from? Because it's not, you can say basketball confidence, but that's different to all different fields. So, like, where does your confidence come from?
I think at first, I definitely think it was basketball. I think, like, I was like, "Okay, sports, I'm the best. Why?" You know what I mean? Like, but I was just confident in that area. Like, I wasn't like, "Oh, I'm confident in myself." Like, I wasn't really confident in myself, to be honest. Like, I just was like, "Oh, I'm confident in the fact that I'm good at basketball." I wouldn't, like, look at myself and be like, "Oh, you're so smart," or, "Oh, you're so good looking," or what, you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
never thought that. But I think being around people that uplift you is, like, so incredibly important, and I think that, like, even though, I'm in different communities or I'm in different rooms and they're very different people, like, as long as they're uplifting me, like, it's gonna help me with my confidence, and so, like, when I go to coach, yes, of course, I'm their coach, and they have to think I'm,
Mhm.
brilliant or whatever, and they have to do what I say, but, like, the respect they give me shows me that they believe in what I'm saying, right? And so that gives me confidence. And then, like, seeing them get better and because of what I'm implementing, that gives me confidence. Like, my boss gives me confidence when we both are like, "Hey, LeBron, hey, Curry," like, we call each other, like, cool names, right? Like,
Yeah.
those little things, like, give you confidence because you're just like, "Okay, like, someone else can see this, someone else can uplift me," and I think that, like, that in itself is so important, and people hibernate now, especially after COVID, and I think that it's just really hard to meet those people, and, I mean, for me, I didn't wanna meet them either, and I kinda was, like, forced because I was in so many different rooms to do so, and it's been the best thing for me.
You talk a lot about, like you said, you're kind of shy or whatever, and you're hinting at like part of like. So we talk about Coach Jenni, talk about Jenni the basketball player, and then Jenni this. But like, what's the evolution of Jenni the person? Because like
Mm,
you kind of see the underlying effects of how Jenni the person has evolved to be better. But I want to kind of like see. You know,
yeah, I mean, I don't have a straightforward answer, I think again, I think I'm still learning. I mean, what they say, every 7 years, your taste buds change, right?
yeah.
Like, I think you change no matter what in life, and, like, understanding that is so important, and I think I didn't know that until I had to change because it was stripped of me, and I think I didn't know it until I realized, "Oh, I have to change or else I can't keep living like this," right? Like, I'm not the old athlete, or I'm someone else, I need to figure it out. And so, I mean, I don't know who Jenny is, but, like, I know that she's someone that shows up every day. She's someone that will, like, support anyone, everyone that needs the support and will be there for them and then lead them in the right direction. I think my goal every single day is to have a positive impact on someone, and I no matter what I'm doing, I try to do that. Even if I'm walking down the street and I see someone that doesn't seem that happy, I'll smile at them or wave at them and say hi, right? Like, that's not something I'm comfortable doing, but, like, that's something that I know makes me happy in the end, and I think that it's gonna make them happy, and so I guess Jenny's becoming, someone who does change those lives and makes a positive impact no matter what we're doing.
So staying with Jenni the person,
Mhm.
if Jenni cannot be a coach, cannot be a businesswoman, could not be any of that. What's Jenni's goal for herself?
I mean, to make the biggest impact on as many lives as possible. I think, like, I want to lead, my girls to a new MAC championship. I want to get the first contract that's the biggest in the company, right? Like, I want to do all these things that, yes, they are the business and the coach and all that, but, like, I think it goes back to also, being the best because I earned it. And I think that's
Mm.
something that I've always done, and I've done it innately, and it's been so natural, and I don't think I was aware that I was doing it, and so I think now that I'm aware I'm doing it, I think I'm gonna work my butt off and my hardest every single day to show up to do that. So that way, then other people who are looking at me, especially little girls and especially girls or athletes or any of them, like they're going to see that and be like, I can do that too, right? Like I can go through all of that and do the same thing and come out and have the impact that she did. And if I can't, she's there to help me and like pull my hand through it. So I don't know if that directly answered your question, but I'm
Yeah,
learning as we go.
that's the biggest part is like you said, learning as you go. And I always do you always hear a lot like whether it's like, you know, the little boys, little girls at home watching. Do you have that in the back of your mind at all times? Like what would a little girl like if I had a little girl that sounds weird. Little girl sitting right here looking at me right now, what would she think? Is that kind of in your head a lot?
Yeah. I mean, again, if you asked me that 2 or 3 years ago, no, right? Like I was just not in that mindset, but now it's like I think it goes back to the confidence too, where it's like I have the confidence now that I'm making that impact. And so to have that confidence, that backs me up to be like, I need to be the best version of myself every single day. And I think that in itself kind of changed everything because I wasn't necessarily confident that people like, yeah, I knew people were watching me because of my records, right? Or I knew people like because of my impact, but I never knew that they were watching me because of like the energy I bring into the room or like because they look up to me, right? Like I didn't have that confidence. And now that I do, I'm like, I would be shameful if I didn't take that and use that in the positive way of being like, okay, I'm going to change this girl's life, whether it's directly me talking to her or it's her seeing me through a video on a podcast, right? Like that's the impact that I want to make and I think I needed to grow up in order to understand that like I have that impact and if I don't use that, then like shame on me for letting that go to waste.
You really do love pressure. Holy shit. Okay, I wonder this about every driven person or super academia person. Are you happy?
It's funny, I get asked that question a lot, which is very interesting.
Well, you're also bubbly,
Um,
so I think people assume it. But then they see how
yeah,
you
but
are.
yeah. I don't know though. I do get and I get it a lot for being bubbly, so it's interesting. I am. Yes.
Okay.
I think happiness is a very hard word to define, similar to leadership, and I think
Alright.
that some days I'm not happy. Some day I mean, I'm human, right? Like some days I'm stressed out, some days sad, some days and I might not even have a reason for it. And so I think to sit here and tell the audience that I'm happy would be a lie because no one's happy 24/7. And if they are, then to me, in my opinion, you're not being pushed uncomfortably to grow as a human. And so yes, I am happy, but there are times where I'm like not, but then I come back to the positive side where okay, why am I not happy, right? Like what can I change? How can I get better? What will make me happy? And sometimes I don't know it and sometimes you have to go through it and the wind's pushing you back and you're like, "Oh god." But the happiness comes from when the wind's pushing you forward and you're like, "I did that and I'm here and now I'm happy." So I know that was a long-winded way of saying it, but, you know, I'm human, so I'm happy,
Right.
and I'm also I struggle sometimes.
That's the best way to put it, I feel like. Because, like, I asked that question because you look at people like Dennis Rodman, like Michael Jordan, like Tom Brady, and some of them were happy because the process of what they did was all it was. But then you look at some CEOs where they're so driven, but you can tell the money that they have doesn't mean anything to them.
Mhm,
So I wonder that because it's a battle back and forth of what makes someone happy or not. And like
yeah,
you said, it's hard to define happiness. But if you had to,
mhm.
could you define it?
I think I think it's really big on what fulfills you as a person, and I think it's not a selfish thing, I think it's more of like, for me, like again, impacting people in a positive way makes me happy. So that can be selfish. Like that's selfish because I'm getting happy from it, right? But it's fulfilling me and it's making me happy while also making other people happy. And I think being able to pinpoint, and I can't pinpoint exactly, right? But I think pinpointing my purpose, what fulfills me, how can I do so every single day while also making myself better, that makes me happy. And like I think also finding joys in life. I love seeing a dog on the street. Like I get happy, right? Like, but then, other things will be like, oh, that doesn't make me happy. So it's like finding those small things that also where you're like, it's okay. Like, it's okay to smile at a dog. Like
Right.
sometimes like I didn't I think for years I was like kind of, I don't know if it was society, I don't know if it was social media, but I was kind of searching for this thing where it was like, I shouldn't be happy, right? Like, I don't have that, or I don't have this, or I'm not that successful. Like, I shouldn't be happy yet. And I think that was such a negative connotation to have because it's like, why not be happy? Why live your life miserable? It's not fun, right? And I'm not saying not struggling, not going through things, but like
Mhm.
finding that small happiness is important and finding what fulfills you and what your purpose is. Like that, I think to me is like true happiness.
I love what you said because like that's something that Kim and I talk a lot about, both on here and off. Because one day I just sit around and I was like, isn't the point to be happy? And also, I think for a while, I think everyone goes through it, but we sit there like, how finite is it that you find happiness in a pen? Like, but they found happiness easily. Like, you're working 800 hours a year, like, but you're not
Mhm.
getting happiness. So what is you're losing? And it's like, oh
Yeah.
shit, I am losing, in that sense.
Right.
So I have one more question before
Okay.
I let you go, even though I love this conversation. And I gotta tailor it to you now because I know you're gonna go. We have a question I like to ask everyone, especially guests. What's the best comment you can receive, not physical, and for you, not work?
I don't know if it's a comment or like a compliment or what, but like today it actually happened to me. So it's great that you asked this question. I had a meeting with some partner for one of the nonprofits I work for, and it was with the Hearing Loss Association. So he was deaf, and he was like, you know, I'm sure he doesn't talk to many people or doesn't have like engaging conversations that much. Um, and I could tell like he was just so happy to talk to me, and I could tell that like I was just like bringing joy to his life. And afterwards, he emailed me and said like, "You made my day. Thank you so much." And I think that's the best thing that anyone could ever say to me, right? Like I don't really care, like, oh, like you're so nice, or oh, like you're so smart. Like I don't care about that. Like the fact that I made his day, and the fact that I made his day so much that he felt the need to tell me, like, that to me made it worth it. Like, I would talk to the guy for hours, right? Like, so I think that I think it would be the best thing. It is a little work, but it's also like that could be any type
Yeah,
of
right.
part of your life. So, hope that answered your question.
It it's probably one of the best answers we've had, that I've had. And you kind of, I see why you said that. Like, I have an interview to do after this, and I was tired. Now I'm like pumped. And I'm the
Oh,
opposite. I'm like,
good.
okay, I'm getting everyone going. I'm like, shit, I got yeah. Like, I feel good. I'm like, okay, now I see what this guy's saying. Like, you know what I mean? So
Good.
like, I do appreciate the fact that that's who you are because I think society needs it more, and that's kind of what we try to do with this podcast is bring that out to like how to
Mhm,
grow and whatever. Because you have both sides. You have like the nice fun side, and then you
mhm.
have the no, no, we're going to the work side now. Like
Yeah,
you
the
have that.
dog side.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly. And it's a crazy balance that not everyone has. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So it's cool that you have that.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Of course.
That's a good comment too, so I'll take that one.
Perfect way to end it. Thank you again for joining us again. You're our first ever repeat guest. Cam said sorry he couldn't be here. He was at work.
No,
But yeah, so hope to have you on anytime you want.
awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to
Of
be a
course.
repeat. I appreciate it.
Of course. All right. See you
Okay.
again next week, guys.
Alright, bye.